G'day guys and welcome to the Centre Bounce for this, my final team going into round one. Stay tuned. Yes guys, we have gone through the preseason, we have gone through round zero, and now we're finally up to the good stuff. It's been a long wait to get here, about damn time. People are starting to get antsy, but I think we're ready to go. We've seen a lot, we've researched a lot, and now we're at the pointy end where finally we can get things moving. I definitely had a bit of a rant in the Melbourne versus Sydney game, and all of the content creators are putting their teams out, and it's quite refreshing to see that everyone has sort of said that they've gone back to their preseason research. They've acknowledged that some people have been overreactionary and looking to back in what they've done. So, look, it seems more and more people are coalescing, I suppose, and coming back to similar sort of setups and teams that have been sort of researched over the preseason to get to this point. And to be honest, it feels good. It feels good to know that we're not going to be completely going haywire and that the community as a whole is really getting together, I suppose, and coming to back in the research, which has been, as you guys know, my motto basically the entire preseason that has come. And that has again featured in this team, which we will go through together. And you will notice that things are dark here. Yes, things are dark. I first noticed it in Jackson Davey, JD's video, and it looked mint. Okay, it looked very mint. And I'm gonna have to shout out the very person who made it. It's called SC Mod. It is a Google Chrome extension, and if we scroll down, it is offered to us by Hamstring, who is on the Fantasy Take TV Discord page. So a massive shout out to your Hamstring, continuously working on it to make sure that there aren't any bugs in it. And it does look very, very nice. So I have to give you a shout out because, as you will see as we go through the players, it looks very clean. If you haven't seen it already in a previous video, like I mentioned on JD's channel. But I guess now that that's out of the way, we can now start, I suppose, talking about my team. And as we did before, we're going to start by building it together. And we're going to go with none other than, of course, King Nick. He's an absolute superstar. Never had any doubts about him. And it seems like a lot of people who were very keen on fading him have come back to earth and realized that this guy is a gun. Sometimes you just need to see it again to be reminded of this kid's greatness. And just simply talking in relation to abstract things like numbers, break evens, tags, all of a sudden it all goes out the window when you see in person just how good he is. So looks like everyone, a lot of people who initially faded him have come back to Nick Dacos, come back to their senses, as we like to say. Normally in this spot, I'd have Tom Stewart here, but I haven't gone that route. I've decided to do something a little bit different and go with Dan Houston at D2 because his early fixture at Adelaide Oval, he's got 6 of the first 8 there. And I've ran the calcs based on how he performs over there, and he averaged 114 in those games, in the 13 games. So it's not a small sample size, 13 games he's played at Adelaide Oval and he went 114. Now he's got 6 of the first 8 in at that very same ground, which is incredible. Awesome to see for Dan Houston. I don't want to miss out on those big scores. I've mentioned this before in previous videos. My starts have been my Achilles heels, and I want this year to be different. I want to start strong and I want to start fast, and I don't want to miss out. I think Dan Houston was earmarked to be a top 6 defender for the season, but I want to get him early because I actually want those top 6 caliber scores on my field and not later on in the season. So Dan Houston, get in my son, get in my son, get in my side, son. We then go, speaking of son, gone with Hayden Young at D3. This is the first time that I'm rocking a team that isn't 4 premiums deep because, as I've mentioned before, the main reason why it's been sort of tossing and turning between whether or not we can go extra in the back line or not really comes down to the rookies and how reliable they are. And I think the rookies that we have are reliable enough to field. Plus, we've got Williams, who we wasn't in my team last time as well because I needed to see what his role was going to be. And we saw that in round zero. He was playing that halfback role. Was he going to be managed? He played out the game, 80% time on ground, which is incredible. For a first hit out, had managed minutes in the VFL game before this one and then played it out. Probably could have been the sub target, to be honest, if not for, of course, the tragic news of Sam Doherty doing another ACL. Very, very tragic news there. Maybe Williams would have been subbed out, implement Carroll in the side. But Williams played out the game, he looked really good. He passed the eye test for me, and that was really important. He will be much better for the run. Will do much better moving forward. I'm glad that he didn't pop off too crazily, because then maybe maybe he's not widely selected as a selection. But to be honest, I think a lot of people should be getting this guy into the team. Injury concerns being accounted for as well. Gibkiss, I think this guy, I've mentioned that and I've maintained that he is very fieldable as a rookie option. I do like Gibkiss. He's going to get a lot of contested possessions and spoils, all of which are counted. If you look at our video that we did with Jaden Poposki, where we break down how scoring works in AFL Supercoach, you'll find that there are reasons why Gibkiss is very much a viable Supercoach selection. He also plays for Richmond, which means that he gets an extra price rise before his buy. He essentially is playing 6 games in 5 weeks, which is glorious to see. Should make us the money. He's even cheaper than when he started off with. So he's a no-brainer for me. It's rock solid job security, as is Blake Howes. He's also got solid job security. Blake Howes is as safe as houses, I must say. Try saying that very quickly multiple times, but with the Bowie, who had an owie to his collarbone, who's going to be out for 8 weeks, confirmed by the Melbourne Football Club. I think Howes is absolutely a lock. Of course, I still have my boy Zach Reid on the bench because he is my boy and I love him and he's going to play. We've obviously got the injury to Jordan Ridley, unfortunately. So Zach Reid, get in the team and stay in the team. And then I've got Phillips here at my D8 because they need to play this guy. I think he played really well in the 2 preseason games. Yes, the first one he was on managed minutes because he actually was going to play against the 2 games, a little bit in the first game and a little bit in the second game. So Phillips, I think they're going to play him. Why else would they draft him, pick him up immediately after they had one too many injuries? They got on the phone straight away. You're coming across. We're going to play you. So I think Phillips has to get a gig. And he looked really good as well in defense. So we move now across to the midfield. Of course, it is M1 Marcus Bontempelli. Do I need to say any more? The dude is a freak in nature. Zach Butters, who I've had in my preseason team throughout the entire preseason, except for the last one, because it was fresh off him rolling his ankle, but he has been completely cleared. News are that he would have continued to play in that game if it was a regular season. That hence why it was very low grade. Did some scans for precautions, no structural damage either. So that's great. Ticked all the boxes. Plus, he has an incredible early fixture. So I mentioned the fact that he's playing a lot of games at home. I also didn't mention that he's got West Coast and Richmond in rounds 1 and 2. And I want this guy, as well as Houston, in both of those games. And while we're talking about it, this guy isn't my M4. But while we're talking about it, because we're talking about Port Adelaide, let's chuck Wines in there. He was in my team in the last iteration because of that very, very thing. So many games at home, midfield time, a lot of midfield time. Seems to be back to his best. Hinkley says he's fully fit. He's going to play inside mid. He showed that he did in the preseason games. And like I said, that juicy fixture of West Coast and Richmond, plus all those early games at Adelaide Oval, means that he really should be making me at least $100,000 to start off with, at which he will be a stepping stone to get to an Uber Primo. Speaking of Uber Primo, now Normally at this spot, I'd have Darcy Parish, but unfortunately, DP3, it you know that meme of my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined? That's exactly how I felt when the news came out that he has suffered a tight hamstring and is in doubt for round 1. So now that has really hurt my feelings. And yeah, I can't go with him. I can't go with someone who is injury prone. I can't go. He's had a perfect preseason, hasn't missed a session, was flying, our best contributor, and then he goes down now. He's with this tight hamstring. And because that happened, I then got cold feet on LDU. I've been big on this guy, as you know, all preseason. He's been in my team. He's been locked in my team. But after what happened to Parrish, who has had extensive soft tissue injuries, as has LDU, and players are dropping left and right now, I'm nervous, to be honest. I must confess, I'm nervous to select LDU, who is yet another person who is very injury prone and keeps going down for various reasons. And for that, I'm not going with LDU. All right. So what I'm going to do is, as soon as I heard the news about Darcy Parish, I immediately saw how much money I had in the bank and realized I had enough to go to Tom Green. And this was before Tom Green's game against Collingwood, because that's when the news came out about Darcy Parish. And I thought, I need inside mids as my Uber premiums. I don't want outside type players. I need Uber. I need mids. I need inside guns. And Tom Green, as you guys would have seen all preseason, I've really been big on this guy. And he's sort of been floating in and out of my team. My earlier iterations had him in my side. I'm like, stuff the buys, because if this guy is worth it, because he's going to be a top 8 mid, which I'm sure he will be. I'm very confident that Tom Green will be a top 8 mid. Then stuff the buys. I don't care. Plus, he's also got that juicy fixture against North and West Coast to start things off. And all of that can take it into account before the Collingwood game. And then we saw how what he did against Collingwood. I'm like, oh boy, now everyone's going to be on him. And we're seeing an increased number of people who are jumping on Tom Green after that practice game, after that round 0 game against Collingwood. He looked sensational. So Tom Green is in here. I don't really care about the early buy because my bench is top notch, I reckon, to cover him in this position. We lost DP3 in this pot, but we still have, we already got him, but we still have my boy, who's Marin? Nick Martin, Nico Martin. He's in my team. Get in there, stay in there. Guy's a gun, going to be a top 6 keeper defender for me. We then have McKercher in the side. I know some people are fading this kid, but I reckon he has to stay off halfback. Given his draft profile, his skills, the type of player he is, and the fact that he's got Clarko as his coach, I have no reason to doubt that this kid is going to play off halfback. He's playing off halfback. There is nowhere else to play him. I know Big J, who's a Northman, was concerned that he was playing back pocket in the practice game, but there's no way that's going to be Kobe McKercher's position. That's not where he's going to get the pill, have the ball in his hands, beautiful ball user. That's not back pocket. It's not where he's supposed to be. It's not going to be where he plays. Of that, I'm very confident. You want to develop a kid, someone with his traits, you're going to play him. You're going to play him on the ball. You're going to play him around half back where he can distribute. He's going to be there with Zach Fisher. I think it's going to be Sheasel. Sheasel, as good as he is, the gun, the free, every adjective that you can give to Sheasel will be accurate because he is that good. And I reckon Sheasel's going to be given more responsibility to play around the ball. I reckon Sheasel's going to play around the ball as a mid forward, because that's what he did as a junior. He doesn't need more development. The kid's probably North's best player already. You know what I mean? So I'm not entirely sure how much more development they're going to give Sheasel. The kid's already a bona fide star of the competition, but McKercher does. McKercher needs development, and he's going to play off halfback. Fisher was brought from Carlton to play that halfback role. We saw it in full force against St Kilda in that practice game. So very confident that both McKercher and Fisher are going to be the halfbacks, with Sheasel going to play a bit more of a fluctuating, flexible role Wouldn't be surprised if we see more of Sheasel higher up the ground because he is that good. I won't forget that game where he and Wardlaw really tore us to shreds at Marvel Stadium the second time around. He and Wardlaw were just incredible partnership going in that middle of the ground, and they were the ones who propelled them forward because I'm pretty sure Simpkin also had a concussion very early on in that game. Sheasel had to play around the ball, and he looked amazing, almost kicked the match-winning goal as well. So I reckon Sheasel's going to play and be given more responsibility high up. McKercher going to be off half-back. That's what my coach's hat is saying. That's what I reckon Clarko should be doing. Sanders has to be in here. This guy's probably the best rookie with this guy. Now, Matt Roberts wasn't. I've been sort of a bit cautious about this guy because I didn't entirely know whether he was going to be best 22 or not. How he was going to play halfback ahead of a bunch of these players. Well, there he is going to play halfback because we saw it in round 0, which was a genuine home and away game. Not a practice game, not a preseason hit out. It genuinely was home and away game with points, premiership points, ladder position up for grabs, and Matt Roberts was playing off halfback. Lloyd, the Seagull, went out to spread his wings on the wing, and that is awesome. Matt Roberts, if he's playing halfback and he continues with this role, absolutely a fieldable option. Well and truly. We get to the bench. Don't worry. I still have Hustway. Hustway is here because I don't entirely trust Sam Mitchell. Obviously, I barrack for the Bombers, as you can see, and Bombers just have an intrinsic hatred for everything that is Sam Mitchell. But from a Supercoach perspective, taking that tangent out completely, from a Supercoach perspective, he's a bit like Bevo, Sam Mitchell, and I don't have to go back too far. Just simply last year, we had this rookie called Cam McKenzie. Kid was a gun freak. They actually played the Bombers as well in round 1 last year, and I was in shock. I was in awe. This kid was so good. He had a bunch of CBAs, absolutely killing it, and then right after the following week, no CBAs. Zero CBAs, which was ridiculous. All these people who didn't have him in the team, we all traded him in, only to then get bamboozled by Sam Mitchell to pull him out. You cannot understand and predict what Sam Mitchell is going to do as a player, as a coach. He's definitely very happy to mess around with the magnets, and for that reason, I think it might be best leave Hustway on the bench. I don't entirely know how many CBAs he's going to get, but the benefit is with a best 18 format, if he does pop off, his score will beat anyone that I've got on the field anyway. So sort of playing it safe on that front. We've got Lazaro still on my team. Hasn't really left my team. I think as a rookie with that forward as well, DPP is awesome to see. I'm very happy to have him. I think he's going to play every game. Now, he might not have the most ideal role, playing maybe as a half forward, but I do think he'll get some minutes around the football. And I think for that reason, I prefer him over someone like a Windsor stuck on a wing. I've mentioned this. Kicked 2 goals in the preseason game and still couldn't crack 80 points. So I think Windsor might have better job security, but Lazaro, I think, might have better scoring power. We'll see. If it doesn't work, then obviously a correction to Windsor is on the cards. We then obviously have Jai Clark. Absolute lock in all of our teams. You can't go past him. Now, we get to the rucks, and this is big for me. This is huge. Absolutely huge. And I can't take credit for this. This has all of this, what I'm saying now, comes to George from Fantasy Take TV, because he was watching. Now, on his Discord, he said that he was watching the highlights for James Jordan, and it popped up a quick little glance of the Melbourne Demons bench. I'll show it to you now. Here it is. Melbourne Demons bench in the second quarter, as you can see. Max Gawn getting work done. Is it a knee? Is it a calf? Looks like he's getting calf rubs here. This happened in around the 7-minute mark. 7 minutes in the second quarter to go. And Sydney are up. Gawn's having a great first half. He's doing sensationally well. And at that point in time, right here, the scoring stopped. 0 points for the rest of the quarter from that point. And we know that in the second half, Grundy dominated. Grundy dominated, took over the game, and Max Gawn went to shite. He only got this last 14 points at the death in order to salvage the score in this second half. But he was involved in nothing. All the points that he had were from hitouts. From this point onwards, which is where he had this calf rub happening. Now, am I reading into this too much? Now, to be honest, it's significant. To me, it's significant. I don't want to start someone of this great man's age when he's getting this done and when we see that it genuinely has an effect on the scoring for the rest of the game at that price. I don't want to spend that much money for someone who might be injury affected. Okay? I was well and truly on this great man. Still, I backed him in. As you guys would know, I've backed him in. But this is different. This is different. This is an injury concern. Not because he is not a viable select. It's an injury concern. The same way that when I was concerned about Butters, I took him out. I've now got genuine concerns about Gawn. And for that, I'm taking him out. And I'm just going to pay up for Tim English. Am I overreacting? Maybe. Maybe I am. But you can't not see that. Once seen, you can't unsee, to be honest. Like this. At that point, nothing. You know what I mean? And the whole second half was just all Grundy. I think they're related. I think they're directly related because Gawny did not fight back. He was just completely walked over and Grundy went up to him, took his space, and Gawn didn't try it to fix it. I think it had to do with that calf. And for that reason, I'm just going to pay up for English. Have someone who I'm pretty confident is going to be R1 for the year. It's a lot of money. It is a lot of money, I know. I'm spending it for English and Bond and Dacos. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of money that I've spent into a few players. But I can't, in good conscience, pick Max Gawn at this point in time. I just can't. We then come to Grundy at R2. And I know it could be Naismith, but I'm going Livingston because I saw footage of Richmond's training and Naismith looked good. Nankervis. Nankervis looked good. I think Nankervis is going to be back sooner rather than later. And when that happens, I think they're going to drop Naismith. It's no disrespect to Naismith, but the fact of the matter is he hardly has played any football in his long career. He's not a spring chicken anymore, and he's hardly played any games. And I think, it's indicative of where he's at, his level as a player. And he is, I'll just put it as he is a serviceable ruckman. He's a serviceable ruckman. Now, do Richmond want to play a serviceable ruckman at this point in time? They've got their captain, Nank. Now, they're either going to play both Nank and Naismith and play Samson Ryan forward? I don't think so. They're going to play two. And it's obviously going to be Nank. If Nank is in, he's in. He's the captain. Now, it's either Samson Ryan or Naismith. Naismith can't play forward. Samson Ryan can. And for that, plus Samson Ryan is the development. Samson Ryan is part of their future. Naismith isn't. So I think based on that, I think they're going to go with Samson Ryan and not Naismith, and I'm not going to spend 123k for someone who's going to be a loophole. I might as well just have a genuine loophole here. So that's what I'm doing. Plus, I think with yes, I know there's a bunch of best 18s weeks with buys, but there are some rounds early on where there are no buys, like round 1, for example. And I would love to do a VC of Tom Green into Captain Bontempelli. You know what I mean? Like, I'd love to do that. Or maybe even English. If Gorn really is coming in with a niggle, English could go bananas. And it really could be a VC of Green into English, for example. We then move to the forward line. Yes. My boy, Sammy Flanders. I've defended you all preseason, my son. I love it. Backing in the preseason research. This guy, all the concerns about, CBAs, not enough CBAs. If you guys have watched my spotlight video of him, and every time I've spoken about Sam Flanders at all in this preseason, it is to remind people this guy doesn't need bulk CBAs to score well. His best role is a fourth fiddle mid, fourth in line, high half forward. He doesn't need many CBAs because he will start forward and then work his way up. He is a very hard worker. He will find the outside ball. He's very good in transition, getting marks high up the ground, and he gets contested possessions even despite starting forward. So I've got no issues with Sam Flanders. Haven't had any issues with him at all in the preseason. As you guys know, he's been locked in my forward line. He's a keeper. He is a keeper for the year. He's going to be, and I've said he could be F1 or F2, depending on what the forward setup looks like, what sort of DPPs we have, and any other sort of injuries, like maybe Sean Darcy's out for longer and Luke Jackson becomes the solo ruck at Fremantle, then yeah, you can't go past him. But for me, at this point in time, as things sit, Sam Flanders is a consistent, safe option because you know what you're going to get from him. And we saw in that game against Richmond. Yes, it was Richmond. They beat up on Richmond. But it was the same 4 players. It was Matt Rowell, the GOAT. It was Rowell, Touk Miller, Noah Anderson, and Sam Flanders was 4th. All of the people who were concerned about Sam Flanders in the preseason game, I've said it. I called it. I said Dimmer Hardwick was giving more opportunity to Bailey Humphrey in that practice game. And I don't think that's going to happen when the season starts. The season started, and what happened? Humphrey had no time around the ball. So sort of what I predicted came to pass, and Sam Flanders is finding himself back in a lot of people's teams. People who had jumped off him in the preseason. Again, it's the preseason concerns, and people are back on Sam Flanders. Now, this second guy wasn't in my team, but I had an eye on him, and we've spoken about him in each of the game reviews that he has been looking very good in the midfield. We have heard it time and time again that Isaac Heaney is going to get time around the ball in the midfield. It's finally come to pass with all of the injuries in the Sydney Swans engine room. It's not going to persist. Of that, I am sure. Because John Longmire hates us. And he hates having Heaney around the ball. He's promised the world. He's promised a dream. He sold us a dream. And we've always bought a nightmare. But I say nightmare. This guy is still very, very good. Heaney's still he still can average you 85 to 95. Playing even as a forward. Which in this current landscape here, in this current year, with the forward options being so limited in terms of the premiums, Heaney could well and truly be a keeper. But more than that, it's the early start. So he actually had a ripping game last week, scored bananas, is around the ball, all those injuries, and we expect that up until his bye, at least, you would imagine that he maintains that role because he's too good. Now, you look at his next 3 games, he's got Collingwood. We saw how the GWS mids did very well. Essendon, which he could do very well against, and Richmond. And we saw what the Gold Coast team did against them. And then in round 4, they've got West Coast before the bye. So that's a ripping early fixture for Isaac Heaney playing around the ball, which is incredible. Now, we can assess after the bye, is he someone we're going to keep? Is everyone going to come back? I don't mind holding on to him for round 6, even when he comes off his bye, because his break even would be so low coming off a massive score against West Coast that even if he doesn't score as much as he was before, he'd still make money given the lower break even. At that point, be more than happy to reassess and say, is this guy going to be a keeper for us, or are we happy to trade him out? For now, I'm very happy to consider him a keeper in the best case scenario. If things go to shit, then he could be a stepping stone. But at the very least, after this first month of football, I reckon he would have made us enough money to really be worthwhile, even as a stepping stone, and potentially get a uber primo midfielder. Could be Zach Merritt, who I really want to get in early. I've got all the guns, these top players. Nick Dacos would be a prime target to trade in after the bye. I've already got him. Bond, I've already got him. Green, I've already got him. Really is Zach Merritt, who I'd love to get in, around round 7. And it really could be Isaac Heaney, who could be that prime target for me to maybe one down, one up to get him in. And I've got Lazaro in the midfield that I can bring forward so that I can then get the Zach Merritt type. So that's the plan with Isaac Heaney. Then, of course, we've got Zach Fisher, who's going to be a keeper. As long as he stays fit, he's going to be on the park playing halfback. We've seen the role. We've seen the scoring. We've seen previous North Melbourne halfbackers. Zach Fisher is going to be a keeper. James Jordan is in here. Again, similar to Isaac Heaney, great opening fixture. And he still scored decently well in subpar conditions, worked his way into the game. I think he'll make us his money. I'm not expecting him to go bananas for me. I just want serviceable 80s for him to make me his money, and then I can trade him out at his buy. Thank you for your services, James Jordan. Harley Reid, I was almost paid to be this guy's lawyer, dare I say, in the preseason. After that first practice game, my word, the pitchforks were out. Harley Reid, I'm a believer, son. Sexton, still in there. Got to keep him with that role. He really could be a keeper for us for the season if he maintains that role. Really, he could be. On the bench, Darcy Wilson, never changed, never out of the side. Kid's a gun. And Aaron Cadman also in the side. Did really well. Scored decently well against Collingwood. He doesn't have to go bananas for us every week, but he very well is welcome to, because in his fixture, he's got both North and West Coast. I have had a time, even as early as today, as recently as today, where I had Jesse Hogan in the side. But when I found out, and I saw, thanks to George, about the Max Gawn situation, that sort of has then sucked up a lot of the money in the ruck line and taken away from what I could have done in the forward line. I was really bullish on Hulk Jesse Hogan. Not going to happen. Hopefully, the young protege, Aaron Cadman, former number 1 pick, with that juicy start to the season with North and West Coast, that he can give us a really good score. Plus, he's pinch hitting in the ruck, which is glorious. Could even get ruck status somehow. I don't know. Would be very unlikely, but would be incredible if he did somehow. That would be the dream. And then we can bring him up here, and then we can have cover in the case of an emergency. And that is the team. Now watch this. The faces. It's the faces. I love the faces. The faces with the thing. Oh, it's incredible. Plus, you get to see the next 3 games as well. Oh, mate, that is absolutely incredible. Well done to Hamstring. That is a great. Love this extension. That is so damn good. As I say that, and all of a sudden, there we go. So well done, Hamstring. That is a glorious extension. Absolutely love to see it. And I've also, if you notice, I've still got 11,900 in the bank. Why have I left some money in the bank? Just in case, if Williams gets injured and goes down in round 1, for example. God forbid this happens, but if it happens, we have enough money to get up to Massimo D'Ambrosio. So that's the rationale. If Williams, who has had a very managed preseason, highly managed preseason, really hasn't played too much, didn't play in any of the practice games early on, only played one VFL game on managed minutes before coming in round zero, but he then played 80% game time. So that's not too shabby. Definitely take that on board, but very cautious. I know he's a must have basically at that price and his previous output. So Zach Williams, he's in the team for now, and I've got the wiggle room in case he does go down. I'd love to end it with the faces on. Don't know why my internet is really bad in this house, guys. Like it's quite tragic. I'm on the NBN and everything, but sometimes it does that, as you saw. But you did see the faces pop up there for a little bit before, which is obviously really cool. Don't worry, it doesn't. The extension doesn't do anything to your browser, but this is all entirely on my home internet. Barely doing enough to get this sort of, barely not doing enough to get this video being recorded. So that is what the team looks like. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you're new, drop us a subscription. And if you like what I had to say here today, there we go. We got the screen going there. Let us know in the comments down below. I might even change my sort of location there. And then you can see the faces even better. Well done. Looks absolutely amazing. So that's the team, guys. Final look at it. You want to screenshot it. Now, I do have English. It's got automatically English as VC. That's not what I want to do. I am going to VC green in this sort of situation. And I'm still going to keep it on Bont. I've got the Bont here for a reason. Bont is Bont. He's my boy. We've picked him to be a perma captain for ourselves, and that's why we have him. More than happy to wait in the news to see whether or not Gorn does anything comes up in the reports that Gorn is managing some sort of calf complaint or any sort of wiggle. If so, then English could be the guy. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Drop us a like if you like what I had to say today. Like I said, the subscription button. We do have our regular live streams every Monday at 7:30 and, of course, 5:30 on Thursdays for the drive home, where, yes, as the name suggests, you will be seeing one or both of us driving home and talking to you guys. So make sure you hit that notification bell. Make sure also that you join our open league. Description will have all the details there. 3 wonderful prizes to be won if you do, in fact, win them. And remember, guys, here at the Centre Bounce, we do the hard work so that you don't have to.